Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dissolving the Divide. Really glad to have you here and very happy to have our guest today. We're going to continue some dialogue around, the experience of men and masculinity in the world. And I'm Leslie Powers. Hey, Derek, welcome.
Bonjour, Leslie. I'm really happy to have Jungle with us,
Hey
representing that
guys.
Metaphyzikal Dynamix. And yeah, we learned about you through some common friends like, Rodney Goodwin, Tala Linden,
Lyndon. Mhm.
and yeah, Ashley Weiss, and other cats that are quite familiar and probably have been in contact or initiated through Seth Exposa, Black Oak Productions, which is fantastic. And yeah, just being on this type of path work and with that extra level of gnosis, it's interesting to maneuver through the matrix. And you've been having some play on words with that a little bit through your YouTube channel and trying to share your wealth of information and experiences, and being a you're an instructor of martial arts, right, at this point?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
so yeah, we're gonna pick your brain about that a little bit, but yeah, why don't you introduce the folks to yourself a little bit? And yeah, glad to have you on, brother.
Thanks, brother. Hey, my name's Jungle. I met everyone, a lot of these individuals through Black Earth Productions. Lovely individuals, and a lot of cool people. Yeah, I'm a martial artist. Started martial arts when I was 8 years old in 1992. But yeah, I come from a direct lineage of traditional Chinese kung fu masters, and so just keeping on the tradition here in 2024. But it's been I have some barbering skills, barber. I don't know what's relevant here, um, and some mental health background as well as a counselor.
Yeah. I was really interested to hear that you have a master in social worker. We share that. And I
Definitely.
think being a barber is really very much a direct experience of like counseling or listening to people in a way similar to being a counselor. Yeah,
Definitely.
and you get to observe a lot of things. So
Me about it. I was
yeah,
so happy to hear when I left the corporate world to be away from the computers and everything. Nothing, that's for certain individuals who are really good at that. My eyes were really bothering me, and it was very refreshing to deal with that in-person contact and staring at organic material versus inorganic material. Although there's a time and place for it, we all need to know. Yeah, but it was very refreshing. It is like a form of social work as well.
for sure. Yeah, yeah. So So tell us about, I'd like to hear a little bit more about your martial art um, experience and background and how you view the martial arts now and its value, right, in the world.
Yeah, well, like I was mentioning earlier, so I learned from a traditional Chinese kung fu line of masters, and I've been privileged with that sense to do so. And it really just brought me confidence. It brought me the ability to tune into myself and to know thyself a lot better. And I really think that it helps people ground themselves into reality because it awakens people's somatic intelligence. And if that's just a fancy word for your body's intelligence, being sensitive to your own body. And so it teaches people how to awaken that. As you know, like your body has many different parts of it, and everything has its own memory and brain. So yeah, it definitely centers the individual in his or her own reality. And yeah, it's there's subtle there's subtleties around you that you can now once training martial arts, you can awaken yourself to.
Sounds like that's almost like what qigong folks would say as well. And yeah, martial arts is obviously a really broad term. And to
Right.
narrow it down, like what are you more specialized and experienced in, I suppose?
So yeah, that's a good question. I'm more specialized in external martial arts, qigong. I mean, however, I have some internal training as well. Qigong would fall under a bit of both internal and external, I would say, because you do cultivate the qi. We do teach what qi is, which is just life force energy, and what the Hindus would call prana. And it's basically all around us. You know, it's within the matrix, without the matrix. You know, it's everywhere, and it's inside of us. So it's we learn how to cultivate and channel that energy into specific points of the body to heal ourselves or to use for self-defense. So that's, I know the fundamental concepts of it, but yeah, I'm not an expert on qigong.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it seems like, a lot of the martial arts, especially the more pure original ones from the East, are more, in line with just, using that for, yeah, for energy, better physicality, and for self-defense. It's not necessarily to, be on the aggressive side of things, I guess.
No, that's
Correct
true.
me if I'm wrong, for sure.
That's the thing. And
Hmm.
you mentioned how martial arts is, how you asked me how it takes place in the world today. And, most people know martial arts through like the lens of MMA, mixed martial arts, and UFC. And definitely all that has its place. And there's even an art to it too. There's definitely lots of skill and talent that shouldn't be, uh, dismissed. Absolutely not. But it is, of course, there's the dark side of it that should be acknowledged as well. And so, um, the the part where I have sort of an issue with in that world is just that there's a lot less honor, I would say, in a lot of ways, because it is promoting more that egoistic. It's more about the image, like the money, the fame, and the you know puffing your chest out. And in my opinion, true masculinity is not really about doing that. That's more about pumping up your ego rather than is about like balancing your and centering yourself as an individual. And honestly, martial arts, what I learned the most importantly, is to make yourself a better person. So I mean, a lot of that stuff doesn't really coincide with making yourself necessarily a better person. From what I've seen, it kind of just lends itself to more um, the blood games, like more carnality, which has its place too. But again, has lends itself more towards an egoistic type of backdrop. And yeah, like talking about the healthy ego here.
Sorry about my background noise. So I wonder if you could just continue to expand on maybe the true essence of the martial arts, the esoteric kind of philosophical underpinnings that are, I think, are part of every tradition originally that often is left out or watered down, in modern practice.
Yeah, no, that's true too. Even within, I will say, I'm not going to leave out traditional martial artists as having that ego too, because you see that in traditional martial arts. But the core of the traditional martial arts centers around, like you said, the more esoteric, but strong principles like wisdom. In our style, it's wisdom, humility, virtue, martial arts, honor, things like that. So it's there's a lot of lessons to be learned about trust and respect, obviously, and discipline, self-discipline, more importantly. But trusting and respecting your teacher. If you can't respect your teacher, this is kind of a double-edged sword to talk about. But if you can't learn to respect your teacher, then you can't really take the class. You can't really humble yourself to learn. So then it also teaches about community, and cohesiveness within the community, respect towards that, the healthy collective side. So in terms of the more esoteric stuff, for instance, your teacher might teach you one thing because he trusts you, he likes you, and it's a combination of that and your gifts and talents. Like not everybody has all three components that your teacher is willing to teach you things. So then, trying to answer your question more specifically, are you?
That was good. That was good.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you hit on, there are values, right? There's fundamental, foundational, aspects that are guiding lights, right? Around virtue, wisdom, honor, trust, humility, and then this structure of passing on knowledge from teacher to student, right?
Yeah.
Not in books, but in actual physical practice.
Exactly. A lot of it is like loyalty as well. Like if he or she decides that he or she can't trust you, like they're not going to teach you like the deeper stuff. They might teach you like the exoteric stuff, but not the more inner, occulted stuff. And part of it, people might say like they keep things close to their chest because they don't want to dilute the value of the whatever, like not to make it a commodity, but like some martial artists kind of do that. But it's also because it's just like a power. It's like they have to know that you're a good person. They're not going to just give power, like teach you some knowledge that you're going to abuse onto other people. It's not about like going out picking fights. It's always about that's the last thing. You would know, Leslie, in the mental health field, like you're supposed to de-escalate verbally first before and try to walk away from fights, not like start them. You know how to finish them, but you're not trying to kill them. You're not trying to annihilate anybody or beat them to a bloody pulp. So it's definitely centered. It's a more balanced approach than one might see in. Again, I'm not trying to dog completely MMA or anything like that, but like just the whole culture behind it, the followers that like, let's just slam our beers down and beat each other up. Be hard, stay hard all the time. It's like that whole thing with what is it about being masculine is like, in my opinion, true masculinity. You have to recognize the fact that in everything hard, there's something soft, and everything soft, there's something hard. And there's many different ways to put that, but like it's that whole yin yang balance. And some might say there's a bit of masculine, feminine. There's some might associate the yang and the yin and yang with masculine and feminine energy, and some people don't like that. They have like a adverse reaction to those terms, but it's all language.
And what kind of language has Hollywood been using, or unholy wood? And you're probably older than me. I'm 40 years old, born in 83. And you've noticed over time, over the past couple of decades, a buildup of before, hey, in the 80s, everyone was kung fu fighting because they heard that one song and this and that. And then boom, the Karate Kid, or, before that, obviously, Bruce Lee and Shaolin and all these things. And then, so obviously there's a glamorization and a watering down of those things. And they put a little too much yang up in that thing,
that's so very true.
Yeah, so you see like the evolution, and then pro wrestling and all this, extra, appeal to ego type of shit, and the fakery and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then you mix that with, people trying to do like mixed martial arts with MMA and this and that. And it's just like, it caught so much fire of popularity in the 2000s and this and that. I just didn't understand people's mentality of latching onto that like so hard and like being like to the point of obsession with that. A bunch of guys like hugging each other half the time because it's like not.
That's true.
Like what the hell?
Yeah, it's interesting because it seems like society, because we're not allowed to jump outside the fishbowl and like look around. We're only meant to, act in these roles, like in masculine roles, and in the way that we're given, like whether it's like, a politician or like this MMA stuff. But like, yeah, like it just seems like there's a lot of men out there and whoever else that basically latch onto that because they don't have it within themselves, and it's the closest thing that they might relate to, maybe, or they live we already know a lot of people live vicariously through their celebrities, and they like to, it's like an outlet for them to see their violence kind of like transferred onto somebody else. But there was something that you said that I wanted to return back to relating
Karate
to
Kid. Ooh, Jackie Chan even. Or no.
yeah.
MMA, wrestling. What else did I say?
Yeah. And I think we're about the same. I'm born in '84. I'm about to my big 40th is coming up.
Cheers. Right on.
Thank you. Yeah, so like the thing is that unfortunately the traditional martial artists got a bad rap in general because a lot of the fakers, the charlatans out there went to go approach the MMA guys, and that's how. And then obviously everyone sees MMA guys and annihilate them, and it's like, oh, traditional martial arts isn't worth anything. Like that's not going to work in a real fight. But again, like you don't. A lot of the authentic guys are not going to go out there challenging, puffing their chest out, like, look at me, I'm the best. They're just like a lot of the best food, like authentic restaurants are hole in the walls. They're not like commercialized or whatever. So it's the same kind of thing. But actually, in all fairness, it's like a lot of the popular MMA guys or successful ones, fighters, have a traditional background as a component of their success. So it's like you can't really dismiss traditional martial arts, and it's a definitely strong building block.
Yeah, it's not going to be obsolete as some people want to make it out to be. In a sense,
not at all. And also, it's like a misconception, I might say, that like when you when you enter into a physical altercation, whether willingly or unwillingly, you're not going to go in there into a deep stance and do something like weird. Like you might learn that stuff, and it's okay if you do that. That's fine if it works. But you're not going to enter into you're not going to do a lot of the moves that you're learning traditionally in an actual fight. They're there as building blocks and Lego. Like I like to make the analogy that they're Lego blocks that you use to learn the foundation, and then once you have a strong foundation, then you can kind of modify it in your own individual style, like, or way. But you can't just like take a little bit from here, take a little bit from there, and then act like you're an expert, because you're not going to understand why you're even doing it in the first place, if that makes sense. And we all, I'm not going off on a tangent by saying that we don't all, dabble a little bit in things. That's okay. But as far as like, if you're really trying to master something, if you're really trying to comment on traditional martial arts, let's say, you got to actually understand it like any other science. You got to actually have like a strong foundation to speak on it, I would say, and to criticize it in that way. Where a lot of people that are coming from the outside don't. Not, there are definitely, flaws. I would say that you could, one of the flaws of traditional martial artists, a lot of masters are very closed off with teaching to outsiders, or even going outside of their style to learn new things. Like I definitely like the philosophy of parts of philosophy of Bruce Lee, where he was all about breaking down the barriers of traditional martial arts and teaching to outsiders, and combining boxing, fencing with Wing Chun and other Chinese martial arts. So
even Chuck Norris arts.
yeah, ripping the head off, blowing it in front of his opponent.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do have a martial art background. I started Taekwondo when I was 13, and I have a pretty interesting story, which I won't really get into here, but I will say that I've observed some of the pitfalls and the temptations that have led to a lot of, I don't know, I think, you know, the core, the pure essence of the martial art is really easily become warped. And some of the ways I saw it happen were through one, I mean, you take the pure teaching, you know, of like, you know, a teacher who's going to really vet the student and, you know, isn't necessarily looking to make it a business versus the business of martial arts. And, you know, which is very different. You know, I've noticed like where I initially started, it was like this really affordable rate. I could go unlimited. I could go twice a day, every day. And but then as things became more business-like, it's like you pay a higher rate and you get to go on Tuesdays and Thursdays or Monday and Wednesday. You know, it's like very different spirit of how things were taught.
Mm-hmm.
And then in Taekwondo, it very much became sports oriented. So a lot of the initial pure kind of self-defense training shifted over to training you to become an athlete. So I was kind of placed on that track of being seen as a person with athletic potential, and then training to be on the national team. And then once you get there, you know, there's international competitions and there's the potential to be on the Olympic team. And and with martial arts such as Taekwondo, there's like then the Olympic training center, you know, gets involved, or the Olympic committee where there's national governing bodies.
The
Olympic, the politics. So I had firsthand, you know, vision of the politics and how it really warped and hurt so much of the true martial arts spirit with the politics, the athlete development funnels, the abuses of power, the ego involvement. You know, there's, you know, the attraction to title, power, privilege, a lot of power differentials, abuse of the power dynamics. Because in traditional martial arts, there's degrees, you know, like you mentioned before, you know, that a responsible teacher is going to assess the student's readiness for the next level of teaching, because it's a responsibility of what you're learning and how you're using it in the world. And if it becomes something you can buy, or you get progressed ahead because you're a talented athlete, sometimes you're not representing the true spirit. And there's a lot of warping that can happen. So, and any thoughts on some of that and what you see happening in the martial arts world?
Definitely a lot of thoughts come to mind. I've seen that as well, Leslie. And I remember that you were saying that you were on that Olympic track. That's really cool.
But I chose not, I backed out. I was sort of the controversial athlete that was seen as missing, and I was national. You know, but I exited because, in great part, because of my discomfort with the political aspects and other reasons.
A candidate for it, that's still. But it's interesting that we both saw that the problems with political aspect in the traditional martial arts realm, because you wouldn't think that that's what it's all about, but like, there's still individuals trying to maintain the purity in it, but like there's definitely, it's sad when you see like masters fighting over power and like, no, you're supposed, and you know, getting into debates about like the way that people are supposed to show respect, and like there's a place for like, you know, setting things in order, and there's another place for like it's something else when it comes to like, you know, two brothers fighting over power because like, you know, they've always had like some, you know, jealousy of one another over one another. That's totally different. And it's like we're all, you know, supposed to be family here, and we've all known each other for over 20 years or so, and then we decide to burn bridges. Like, what's that all about? If we're having the best interests of the people, and it shouldn't be about, like, you know, like your own personal, don't like, try not to let your own personal dramas play out, and it does become like a saga. There's many unfortunate. I've seen many people stay loyal and stay with the teaching and the martial arts and their teachers for a while, and then they put in their blood, sweat, and tears into in their own personal lives to their teacher and the style, but then something happens where they won't sign over their entire life to that's where I see it, where the power dynamic happens, is where the power imbalance, because as there are many teachers out there that will, you know, use their title or position to basically like seize control of the individual's personal life, like completely. Like, you know, there is a tradition. So like like it's not uncommon to have those traditional masters back in the day be like, okay, go get me cigarettes, go get me I need coffee, or I need this or whatever, and then the student goes to run and is their little like kind of servant in a way. And it's very dangerous because it could get into that master slave dynamic. But then that's just to initially gain the trust. You know, that is, maybe some might find that controversial, but I feel like that's somewhat okay to an extent, as long as you kind of, in one aspect, you kind of have to go through that training to kind of understand your place and to humble yourself, and then it's like breaking you down to build you back up. There's a use for that, but then once you break out, there's a point where you grow out of that, where the master still wants to just like change the criteria of the agreement of like the individual's training and contract or whatever, and then like basically ask for more, and you know, we're not living in ancient times anymore. You know, we have to adapt to, we're not just all sitting around, and martial arts is our only thing that we you know, subscribe to or are living. You know, we have a life, we have to have a personal life. So I just see that control factor come into play when it comes to like the power dynamic between the master and the student, or the teacher and the student sometimes in traditional martial arts. So there's definitely ego all around, enough for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. It's a double-edged sword. Go ahead, Derek.
Okay, thanks. I was about to write it down if you wanted to go, but unless what I was going to say is that, you know, and this could be, I'm thinking about just like any kind of master slave dynamic, teacher student, whatever, public school, martial arts, medicine, you name it, you know. And if the, you know, the student feels like abused in a sense, they might do things out of spite or aspire to want to be the teacher just to do the same, you know, oppressive things to the next, you know, generation of students under his wing, I guess. So there's like a negative feedback loop cycle. Have you noticed that? Anything like that?
Yeah, because it's the way that the student will relate to how they were brought up, just like the parent and the child. And for a lot of people, it is very vulnerable situation, because they haven't, you know, grown up. Maybe they were living in a more poverty type of circumstance, and their teacher was kind of like a father figure for them, or a mother figure for them, and so a parental figure. So yeah, that can easily be transferred to the student, and then just replicated in the next generation. So
Yeah, I agree. I think that the martial arts almost like sets up that dynamic a bit. You know, my observation was a lot of kind of lost souls in many ways sometimes grab onto a martial art teacher and become very loyal, almost blindly loyal over time, because it's such a deep connection. I would say that my instructor very much had a fatherly impact on me, in terms of, seeing me and seeing my potential, my ability, speaking that out loud to me. It transformed my mind. Like, it gave me a different understanding of myself and who I could become, so
cool.
it's something I think is really, anyone who's teaching martial art, I think it's important to recognize that type of subtle power, the unspoken power that exists in that power differential as a teacher to a student. And that it can, just like that example of, go get me, I remember, a senior student asked me to go get, the clam chowder from across the street, bringing it back, or, we would, after class, we would be walking across the floor, picking up trash, little pieces of garbage off the floor. Like, there's a certain humility in the experience that I do think has a place, and yet it is something that potentially can be abused and is being abused, unfortunately, in different martial arts schools and in some of the sports world, for sure. So there's like a discernment that was required,
Definitely. It's like there's a place, like you said. So it's like I don't want to sound like I'm knocking on. I'm definitely not knocking on the experiences that I've had, and I'm sure you're saying the same thing. Like you attribute a lot of your level of spiritual or personal development and growth to the martial arts world and your teachers, and whatever world that you are relating it to. So I'm definitely doing the same. Like I owe a lot to my teachers. I've had a lot of great teachers in my training in martial arts, and I learned so much from them, and I'm very grateful for them being in my life, because they definitely guided me, and martial arts has guided me in dark times. It's definitely given me a more spiritual. I've always felt like I was on that. It's like coincides with who I am as well, but it definitely has broadened significantly. My life would be completely different if I wasn't into martial arts, I would say. Specifically the people that I've like grown up with in this particular style that I do. So,
Ooh, that's cool, man. I got a good question for you.
for sure.
And because you've heard on social media, whether it be from the opposite sex or the same, like where the hell are the real men? What the hell? And I want to know, through your experience and observations, how learning martial arts and stuff, especially from the more ancient pure traditions, how it's cultivated you to be, kind of in that sacred masculine energy. And or if people haven't had that through that experience or whatever, or just
Well,
how it can help, or that kind of stuff.
well, like I was mentioning earlier, I have had a lot of positive role models, and that's a rarity these days, I would say. And what's perpetuated in the social media is just like not really truly authentic, I would say. Maybe there's definitely there's definitely gems out there, and I definitely thank you guys for creating your channel, because you're able to get an eclectic. You seem like you're getting all the gems together and putting them onto this channel, so it's awesome. Definitely honored to be here. So, but yeah,
thank you
for sure. And it's just like I've had a lot of positive influence through those role models. So they were oftentimes blue collar working, hardworking people that were down to earth and not like super uppity, and didn't come from affluent lifestyles, and they knew what it is to work for what they need to achieve, and they knew what family meant to them, like true values. That in social media, it's like talked about, like, oh, this is what matters, but we don't really oftentimes like, it doesn't end up being about that in the end sometimes. Not we, I would say, like, those that were that are out there doing that. But
Well, hey, they got to keep scrolling on, man, because it's a scrollathon on those things, Like,
that's what counts.
Of it.
It is. It's
Not
about
with everyone, but you know what I mean.
no, I do. It's about it's not about beating people over the top of the head, saying you're bad, or you're stupid. I'm gonna help you, but you're stupid. Yeah. Part of the whole Andrew Tate thing. Not, hey, I said his name. But yeah, like, these guys that I looked up to were just honest people. They were just like, and I saw that they're not only physically strong, they're like physically strong, like one of the guys, he's a trucker, truck driver. A lot of respect to those truckers, but yeah, like, one of the kindest, gentle giants out there. But he was like, it's scary getting into a fight with him, but he knew how to balance his power, like, and so I guess that was my biggest influence in terms of the sacred masculine, and it's just knowing how to balance out the hardness with the gentle nature of one's being, because there's not a lot of that is like, when people hear like those words, sensitive, gentle, or soft, or whatever, that means that it's weak. Or even when they look at the opposite sex as like the weaker sex or something like that, that's just ridiculous. It's a different like type of leadership that both sexes come together and lead, and one needs the other. So it's just that simple, in my opinion. It's and you have it within yourself. You have to find that within yourself in order to kind of connect with those outside of yourself, like, in that way. So definitely not. I'm speaking from a place of passion, obviously, not trying to be dogmatic about it.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, like your symbol on your YouTube channel with the yin yang and all that,
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
The eternal flame blazing, with that.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, thanks a lot. Yeah,
Proper balance, like you said, and that's what I've wanted to get to in regards to how martial arts kind of aligns to natural law and cultivates proper masculinity within men, especially growing up, especially not able to control their hormones and their testosterone and all over the place and all that. But understanding like the self-defense principle, that is like that sacred pillar of the masculine. So to really have that, and like you said with your friend, like having like a lot of brute force, and with the masculine, like yeah, people can cultivate that, own the negative side of that, through shadow work and this and that, bring it out if we're confronted in a life or death situation, to really uphold our being or others that we love and that kind of stuff as a proper protector, whatever. So yeah, that's what I really admired about martial arts, because and seeing folks more like Jackie Chan or others, even if it's not a little Hollywood, they're not trying to kill people, even if some of them might have deserved it, whatever, but they had certain principles that they rested upon that seemed quite aligned to that natural law type of shit,
Oh yeah. So you're talking about yeah. I mean, protecting those that you love, and the defenseless, or the helpless out there. Altruism, that's also a fine line too, because you can also go too far with that, and then put the individual down for the collective and all that. But it's definitely part of natural law, I think, for the sacred masculine to protect, and it comes natural. It's just like, but you got to know your place. You got to not overstep like the other individuals' boundaries just because like they have their own free will. They also have to learn how to defend themselves to some extent. But yeah, we've lost that in our society and community. We've lost community, even though we're being told that this technology brings us closer. It's actually, separating us further and further apart. So as much as we can get back to the organic and utilize the technology simultaneously in a positive way, that's the best thing we can do. But as far as the like it's funny because the 90s movies like with Jackie Chan and like even Jean-Claude Van Damme, and as cheesy as they may be, but they were always showing the hero or the I know you're thinking about them split kicks and those are awesome, but they left the viewer with a positive vibe, at the end. It's like feeling empowered, sort of like standing up for what's right, not like
Yeah, it's like the warrior archetype. I think we hunger for that. We need that warrior archetype, and the martial artist is a representation of that, for good or bad, right? It can go on either side. And I think about, what benefited me a lot, which I still, as a female, the discipline of training, the discipline of the martial art, and also like in the testing process of getting up in front of people and kind of dealing with your nerves and being asked questions and having to stay calm under pressure. There's a lot of real life practical benefits from that process of like embodying the art. It's not just an intellectual thing, but you're really embodying it, and it brings you face to face with yourself. Right. And this sense of, I guess, camaraderie and the philos, the familial sort of bonding. I still have deep connections to my martial art brothers. Yeah. I consider them family. I've known some of them since I was 13. Yeah. I could show up on their doorstep and they would let me in. They would back me up. There's something there that is very valuable beyond words.
Yes.
There's a sense of, thinking of the two pillars, the non-aggression pillar and the self-defense. I feel like the martial art really embodies that philosophically, that we aren't, learning punching and kicking and to just go out there and punch and kick everybody. It's really like, don't be aggressive. Exactly. You hold this inside for the right time, at which time you act with commitment and follow through on your honor to protect. And so there's a beautiful need, I think, for this embodiment in our world.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, like just not being on the opposite ends of the spectrum of extremes. Like I'm gonna be like all or nothing with like aggression or non-aggression, being too aggressive or too passive. Like we need to bring back the balance, and definitely martial arts definitely hones that skill. It teaches people like how to see as well, like see in multiple ways, with your physical eyes and your third eye and your first eye, as we have been taught about. So it's really important. And then I can relate with you with the whole camaraderie in the community and having brothers and sisters that you can show up at the doorstep. I'm fortunate to be able to have that as well. Know that my brothers and sisters wouldn't turn me away if I was on the streets, if I asked for help. But thank God that I don't see that happening. But you never know, like in how things go in this society. But it does. It's just weird how this warrior energy is coming back, and it's just like my entire life I've been sort of training so hard for what? I've been asking myself, why am I training so hard? Like there must be something, as if I'm in a war, and then it turns out many years later, things not necessarily like putting out that energy of like a physical war happening, anything like that. But it's all happening on multi-dimensional levels. So it's whether or not there are the odds are coming against us, and like not the odds, the dark force is always there. So doesn't matter if it's there or not. It's good to train, I think, in general, and it's good to bring community together like that.
The training could be a lifestyle. I think that's really optimal, right? For us to have communities that have a martial arts component built into regular life.
It's a lifestyle. And I did want to mention something about like the bioenergetic, the mental health piece, because in today's world we suffer a lot from that, and so there's just where do I start with that? But well, let's just say through it doesn't have to be martial arts. That's what I was going to get at. It could be yoga, but there are different forms of bioenergetic exercises that people that are listening to this channel probably are familiar with. But for those that don't know, it's just a fancy word for awakening awakening the body intelligence. And I might have mentioned this earlier in the show, but soma being a form, the word for body, somatic intelligence. Your body has different organs, and even your skin is an organ, and it's just teaching you how to awaken your entire body, and it has a brain. Every part of your body has a brain, which then leads to its memory. So whether it's martial arts or yoga, it's basically helping you heal the traumas that we all store within us. And going into it a little bit deeper, I don't know where I can pinpoint this philosophy, but maybe it's Wilhelm Reich. I don't want to misattribute credit, but there's a philosophy that says basically that the anything lower than the neck is the unconscious mind, and then everything above is the conscious mind. So we store all the traumas within our bodies. And a friend of mine, actually Ashley Vise, was saying that the way that we pump our muscles, there's a reason why we feel like when we exercise we feel better. It's because it's working like a siphon, so it's purging out the traumas out of our extremities and out of our body, and that's why part of the reason why we feel better. So it's really, in today's world with the mental health piece, people are literally losing their minds. The masses of people that just don't have the direction. Martial arts or yoga or even dance, I would say, would be a form of bioenergetics. It's just you got to learn how to move the energy around. Start by walking, but that's slightly different, but that's at least a good stepping point.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, especially I think of women, a lot of women who have been, had different types of abuse,
Mm-hmm.
And I've done some teaching as well, and had some women who were really very timid, very uncomfortable with embodying sort of their own aggressive potential, right? The ability to really get in their body and, do a snap kick,
Yeah.
and that it's it's an opportunity. It's a very good opportunity to really become more balanced and whole in oneself, and cultivate the masculine and feminine within oneself, and to heal, right, some of the embodied flight response, or dissociation that comes from traumatic experiences.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so true. And it's hard to put blame on those individuals. I mean, although we should hold them accountable, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of underdeveloped and childish people out there that are out in those behaviors and they're projecting onto to others. And sometimes, they should be, I don't want to say they should be seen or treated that way as childish or children, but in a way, it's like they're acting that way because they were, you know, something happened to them where, there should be some form of compassion there where we understand that that's why they're acting that way, but at the same time, detached to taking it personal. We shouldn't, always taking it personal. Although stand up for ourselves as well. So yeah, those self-defense classes are honestly like more valuable than sometimes like the more advanced stuff, because it's just learning the basic components of like asserting yourself. What do you do in this situation when you're cornered and you got someone stronger than you wrapping their arms around you? Like, what are you supposed to do? And then it's crazy because as skilled as you can be, like even at an advanced level, your adrenaline starts to kick in, and it's all, the battle becomes of the mind. It's always going back to the natural law. Derek was saying, how do we tie this into natural law? Well, if all is mind, you could be the best fighter, and if you're not calm in a fight, you might likely lose the fight. So
Yeah. It's like it's an opportunity to come face to face with your fight, flight, and freeze impulses in your body system, those
Boom.
very just automatic survival responses, and yet develop some mastery over them, right? In the moment, during training when you're, someone's doing a punch to your face or something, and how do you hold your cool, right? And
Oh yeah.
Real quick, because I just want to tail off on what you're saying, because it ties into what you were getting at earlier. And yeah, like the Karate Kid, I think it kind of goes into the fact, or it can be symbolic, if you will, to, sorry for the train, but it was like Danny Boy with the old school teacher, going back with the, like what you're aligned with, the ancient teachings, versus, the Cobra Kai kids, the more modern, little fuck boys, getting their rocks off on the aggressive side of, I'm learning this because I can beat people up type of thing. So yeah, it's that has some good moral lessons and messages with that.
Yeah.
And going back to William Reich real quick, and with the whole teachings as well, like it teaches people, it seems, to be calm and composed under pressure in tense situations, to control your adrenaline. And I feel like that has to do with, really operating from the first eye, the heart-based intelligence.
Oh
And I
yeah.
feel like what you mentioned with William Reich, I feel like he might be not necessarily correct if everything from the neck below is, was it unconscious, subconscious, whatever?
Yeah, I don't want that's yeah, I'm not sure. I want people to double check whether or not like that's where that is who said that. I just know that there's a philosophy out there. Yeah.
Yeah, and that might be out of context from what he's getting at in regards to that quote or whatever, but yeah, I just feel like, everyone, whatever, male, female, needs to be operating from that heart-based intelligence. And that's word up to Rodney Goodwin with that Hardcore Productions, huh?
I want to say something about,
Exactly. Go Rodney.
something that supports this idea of the body holding the subconscious, because it does make sense from the physiological point of view of how the nervous system holds emotion. So our emotion is more than just a mental experience, right? Our thoughts create emotion, and emotions are energy, and energy is a somatic experience, right? And that when we don't process an emotion, we don't feel it, and we don't integrate an emotion, it can get lodged and in our bodies. It can get stuck.
Yeah.
in our bodies in unconscious ways. And so if we're, we have our conscious mind and then our unconscious mind, and it is like shoving it down somewhere in our system energetically that does express out into the body. So it's through the body that we can get in touch and find that buried subconscious information and then bring it outward. So there's something really profound about that.
I think so too, because like just as a slight example, when I was living up north a little bit, towards the more metropolitan areas, people are more in their heads and they're disconnected from their bodies and their heart and connection. So I was able to relate to people all day long in a a more in an area that's a Princeton, let's say, where there's a lot of Ivy League, intellectuals or whatever, and I can get along with them all day mentally, but then like when it comes to a heart-based connection, it's just not as much there. Generally speaking, of course, I have exceptions, exceptional friends there, but yeah, that's just an example. Like it definitely is true that a lot of people will be cut off from their bodies because they're in their heads. But yeah, I think like that's a good analogy with the whole everything below the neck being analogous to the unconscious mind, and then you got the conscious mind, just like the iceberg analogy. But yeah, I forget what else. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll let you think about that while I ask you another question, so you forget even more. Like that's how these things work around here, man. But
I like it.
Yeah, obviously the martial arts ways seems to be to the approach of like I wouldn't say like the end goal, but it's
right.
The old saying goes, it's best to be a peaceful warrior in the garden as opposed to a gardener in a war type of thing.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, because then you're always, the gardener and because you want to be prepared. You're always ready, in a sense, like, and you're alive for the most part. I think you're just more alive that way. And it doesn't, again, have to be martial arts. Anything that makes you light up your spark is gonna, definitely, and anything that, allows you to channel energy and allows the flow of energy through you is going to be the way to go for you, but it's interesting, like Leslie said something that I really wanted to also comment back to, but
something about the somatic body and how that operates and the tip of the iceberg or that kind of stuff. Does that ring a bell for you?
Something, it was like to do with that was one thing. It was like two things. One of the things was how the emotion turns into disease, and it can turn into disease. It gets stuck. That's the main thing. That's the main goal that bioenergetic exercises through, let's say, like somatic counseling or martial arts. These are all like mental health terms that we're using that are just fancy terms for what ancient traditions have been doing all along. They just didn't put it into modern terms, basically, in my opinion. So like that's the main goal of these disciplines, is to teach people how to rid themselves from those the stuck energies, the stagnant energy inside of themselves. And you'd be surprised like how much renewed you feel and just whole you become through that process. So, but it's not the be all end all. It's an ever long lasting journey, and it's a means to an end, or it's a means, that's for sure, because there is no end. So that's I don't want to dial it down. I don't want to end there, but like I'm open to other questions if you have any, or we can also end. It's up to you.
I just wanted to add this, as you know, what you just said reminds me that there's a process of maturity, probably in some level, for every martial artist that kind of parallels just our human maturing, and how we, may have different relationships to our body, to our power to make effect in the world, right? Um, because, and that, I think, giving some grace to people on their individual journeys. I see, a lot of the folks that I see now, I see them offering service in the world, that a lot of the martial art training and history has really been embodied in a way that is offering back. And that was definitely a spirit that I've observed that exists in martial arts, of caring about your community, taking a responsibility to offer back into your community,
Definitely.
building others up. Yeah.
Yeah, even within, I think a lot of martial arts schools, they might have like a older brother, older sister program, or they'll might have like feed the homeless type of program going on, where they volunteer on a certain day. But yeah, I mean, and even in their own individual personal lives, they probably I've seen a lot of people that are in the helping industry or of some form. But yeah, it definitely caters to that type of personality. I would say is like someone that actually really gives a shit, really cares, from the heart space. So, but yeah, it's interesting because like as a lot of the stuff, just as like let's say the New Age movement was a response to religious dogma, and alternative media or truth truth movement, it could be like people teaching people how to like sever or cut off relationships that are toxic, right? And that even in itself can, we're seeing, like you were saying, like to have more maybe patience or compassion with along the individual's journey. So like we can even go too far with like just immediately dismissing people because they're being toxic as well, because like everybody has not, we're all fallible in some way, shape, or form, but we all have our gifts and talents as well. So there is a level of regulation for how much patience one should have for other people. And yeah, we're at different places in our lives, so maybe you know you might be able to tolerate some people that I can't tolerate, or vice versa, and at certain stages in our lives, and that's okay. We shouldn't judge each other for that, but at the same time, there are definite red flags where we can, all agree upon that probably won't be conducive for any one of us. We can always use extreme examples like a psychopath, obviously, but that's just yeah, it's all about being able to regulate your own inner emotion, your inner world, and tapping into that in order to relate and connect with those on the outside of us, I think.
That's cool, man. And yeah, it sounds like you're a proper teacher. And
I
yeah,
try.
along the lines of that, with your students, especially with the mental health crisis of our youth, how have you seen this dynamic a little bit or whatever, or like people have a lot of inner conflicts, right? And all these things and all the external conditioning and yada yada, social media, the whole nine. So
Mhm.
it's really hard for them to kind of like
Yeah, that's
stay grounded within their own genuine selves, I guess.
well. I'm definitely. I want to say I'm definitely always a student first, so I'm learning.
Yeah.
I learn a
It
lot.
keeps evolving. Yeah,
That's what
that's right. Yeah.
keeps us going, right? I learn a lot through indirect, like conversation, and through other teachers like yourselves. But yeah, like I definitely see that with the adolescent population, and I have had some experience with them the hardest population I've dealt with is in the mental health field. Was the behavioral population, the juvenile detention kids, because they only respond to aggression a lot of times. And if you're not from that lifestyle, they're not going to really respect you or listen to you, even though you might be offering good advice. But besides that, I definitely think it's important to bridge the gap in terms of many different things, but specifically like the generational gaps, like the younger generation and the older generations need to learn from one another instead of like just like calling each other names, and that's just all around across the board in general. But like, yeah, honing in on that subject, it's important to bridge that gap, because there's a lot that the younger generation can offer. There's also a lot that the older generation can offer, so it's like, I know I've heard recently just a lot of hate against Gen Z, and I can understand, why, or a lot of shade being thrown that way. But it's like, they're called lazy and don't want to work, and they just are weak and soft. And but isn't it also our responsibility to teach them and to also
Conscious parents and shit, right? So it's
yeah,
back on them as well, right?
yeah,
So they
exactly.
And
gotta be
all our
like,
role modeling.
yeah. Sorry to cut you off.
And as well as the role modeling, but as well as of course, if we're not imposing on them if they're open to it. Of course, those individuals that are actually open to it. But like, it's also the younger generation's responsibility too to like open their eyes a little bit, have a little bit more patience, and not just not just believe in the black pill like type of way of thinking, like, oh, we're all fucked, and you guys are responsible because you didn't stand up for fixing the economy or fixing like whatever, these politicians calling these politicians out or whatever. So I'm fortunate that I've been able to like work around a lot of Gen Zs, and they're they have their own gifts and talents. They just need to be guided, I think. And also, they don't have to be just you don't have to be just like a teacher. You could also be friends with them to a certain point, however that comes across.
Do you have any tips or feedback for people who are looking for a good martial art training, a good teacher, what to look out for, maybe what to avoid, what are signs of, kind of a good, healthy school or teacher?
Yeah, I'm thinking as you're asking me that question, I think it's important to obviously like search out a teacher. Well, you mean if they're a traditional teacher? It would be good if you can seek out a teacher that comes from a direct lineage. Obviously, that's ideal. Of traditional masters or martial artists, and but also one that's not gonna that's not puffing their chest out trying to showboat, and it's not entirely commercialized, but wants to teach those that are wanting to learn, and also mostly focusing their teaching around making people a better human being. That's what I would say I would encourage people to look for in teachers when they seek them out. Even if their skill level is, I would say, even if it's more important to find a teacher like that, even if their skill level isn't as good as like say somebody else that has a really high like skill level but is an asshole or wants to abuse people. It's like you're not gonna it's just not you're not gonna pick up as much good qualities. You might be able to pick up some really great skill sets, and then if you have the ability to discern on your own, then leave. That's one thing, but like initially, yeah, go for a teacher that really has their heart in the right place, I would say, but also isn't just gonna pacify you and has that limit of like being stern, but also being kind, you know, and has the interest of fostering good values in their students, you know.
It ain't about the money, man. And I'm sure you've seen the uptick in all types of advertisements on Facebook or social media and YouTube, all that stuff. You know, there's going to be people just, you know, going to AI, typing some keywords and getting the whole cheat sheet list or whatever. And they're just
Mhm.
going to read some stuff and act like some kind of expert all of a sudden. And I'm going to make some money and teach people. And because I got some bravado and whatever bullshit gelato. But yeah, it's like Chat GPT mixed with NLP and like whatever the fuck it be, man.
What
It's
is
so
that?
whack to me, you know, like
I
God.
know. Yeah.
Sorry, I had to say something.
He's coming out with those rhymes. You're really good at those rhymes. Yeah, no, I like that. I agree. Like, there's so many people that want to learn online, and that's okay. But like, just understand that that's where you're learning from. It's not like It's always going to be better if you can learn in person, you know. But if you can learn from a book or online, I had this one friend of mine, to a teacher of mine slash friend, who he's like 60, mid 60s, but he's doing these yoga poses. He's been reading the same yoga poses, the same 6 positions from some 80s magazine for like 30 years, and he's super flexible, but that's all he knows. But it's kept him in his health in order, and that's good too. But like, yeah, the AI stuff you got to watch out for. Yeah, forget what I was
I don't think anything beats out the in-person
saying.
experience. You know, especially with martial art, it really is about interaction.
Yeah,
And you're going to reach a limit in your understanding or your embodiment of an art like martial arts if you're just copying things from a screen.
yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like yeah, I agree. It has everything has its limitations. Some even individuals, we have to recognize our own limitations as much as we do recognize our infinite potential. But we have, you know, we live in a human experience in you know, a grounded reality that we do have to realize that it has its own limitations, and that's okay. It's part of being human. but but yeah, that's in terms of finding the right teacher. I think those are some of the qualities I would look for, and just look out for the charlatans. You always be, you know, you know, aware of people that just want to do it for what are their most. You can pretty much see, you know, pretty quickly what people's interests really are. Are they doing it to pump up their own ego, or, you know, their own image? Are they doing things in vain? You know, even though they're preaching the right principles, like of like humility or whatever, or they're teaching like, you know, let's say like wisdom. You know, any like they could be talking about family, but then yet they want to be worshipped like a, you know what I mean? So if you notice that you're giving your power away to somebody else, like in a weird way, then yeah, it's probably not right for you. But if you feel like you're being empowered, and that whole thing is also, you just have to have a strong discernment between the feeling of being empowered because you're empowering yourself, and you're putting forth, people can guide you, but you're putting forth the effort to make your life better, versus like just living vicariously through because you're regurgitating what somebody else is saying or doing, and
Yeah.
it's creating a persona for you. You got to always be aware that you know, we're constantly looking for things to identify and attach to that can become personas, and so it's like, yeah, the whole identification thing.
Good point.
So
Yeah.
we could talk endlessly about all these
I
things.
know. Hey, some people
Yeah.
just want to play Tekken for years and years and act like they're a kung fu master. Yeah, Leslie, what?
Yeah.
You know that one? But
Yeah, no, those are
Yeah, I was
cool games. But yeah, I don't really even play. This is the extent of playing video games that I've had, the extent of experience. But
I was just thinking of the question that I would like you to answer, but I was thinking for myself, like, what is it that I've taken away, you know, some of the gems from my training, which was more active in my younger years. And for me, it was this concept of indomitable spirit. You know, we had a symbol, the Kwan, and it was about, you know, you can fall down, but you always get up. And this was sort of the spirit that was really taught, I think, that I would say has made a lasting impression on me.
definitely.
And I'll say that this Jito Kwan is a mixed bag because it's also a political kind of lineage, right? That you can trace back to groups of people who are in the, you know, Jito Kwan sort of path, and that I've released. I've not want to be part of that, but the essence, the principle of it is what I carry forward with me, not the affiliation with a group of people, you know, who call themselves Jidakwan. But so I'm wondering for you, what is it, you know, do you have a creed or a, what is it for you that really you've carried forward in your life?
As a creed?
Or not necessarily, but as an
Yeah.
essence or principle or something that made a big impression on you.
I guess the balance of the thing that comes to mind, and I'm sure there are better things, but having, again, like the symbol right here is a symbol of respect. I'm sure every style has their own, but it's some do it this way and some do it this way, but it's basically power and control, and you can't have one without the other. But you know, we kind of modified that to it's I'm losing memory of what we modified it to, but basically it's a similar type of thing. So yeah, like it just is similar to the yin yang symbol actually, but yeah, it's you can't, you gotta just know how to regulate the type of, I guess, like inner power that you have, if you will. That's all.
Yeah, it's interesting how the bowing or the hand gestures, really the embodiment of concepts in a physical symbolic form,
Yeah.
you know, has meaning, right?
Yeah. That initially, I think it was one of the tribes of people that used it as a sign to kind of it's also a symbol of the sun and the moon together. Yeah, so that. But like a lot of I don't know if it was the Han people. I can't remember which one of the types of Chinese people that were using it to kind of signify or flag down other members that were Han. I think it was the Han people. I could be wrong. So anyway, they were trying to use it as like a gesture to like, hey, I'm one of you guys, you know. But then it went into a sign of courtesy. This is a sign of courtesy now. So
Yeah.
That's cool. And I've seen that in some hip hop groups as well. They say like fist upon nation. They might not have the same, you know, affiliation or whatever, but
that's
and
cool.
I wanted to ask you also, with that being said, with the whole Wu-Tang Clan and their, you know, Shaolin style, you know, inspiration, and how they might have watered it down, but they paid homage and respects. I don't know, like, to what degree, but in your eyes, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I think it's so cool, like that they did that. I love the blending of cultures, and that how we can learn from one another. You know, like in that context, it was, you know, there's a whole can of worms when it comes to the whole Asiatic black man, and like there's a whole black conscious community out there that preaches about like how the Asian culture and Asia was the entire planet or whatever, and that the brown people were all one. But I also, I'm open to different theories, but I don't look at one race obviously as superior. I think we're all one, and I don't. I'm also open to the fact that like I don't believe that like all. Anyways, I'm gonna go on a tangent if I start talking about that stuff, but I do think it's cool. uh, it's cool that they pay homage. Like they actually went to the Shaolin Temple. Their manager, I think, is Asian. She might. I think she's Chinese. But she's like down with hip hop, and I like the fundamental core parts of hip hop where higher infinite power healing our people. That's what it stands for. So that's the original intent of it. And that actually brought all the different cultures together. It wasn't about, just being black or anything like, but it was, of course, for men, created by black people. But it's just like this. It's like, if I use the pen, does that mean nobody else can use the pen because I created it? That's like, it's there. No one, you can't like try to necessarily like say it's just yours, So I think I think it's beautiful that they have paid homage to the Chinese culture in particular. But yeah.
Awesome.
So,
That was beautiful, man. Thanks so much. And I don't hear the breakdown of what hip hop, the true abbreviation really means and all that stuff. And that's great, yo. I feel that.
thank you. Thank
And
you. Right back at you.
cheers, brother. Yeah, I love hip hop, yo.
Definitely.
As far as like people misappropriating this stuff in Hollywood and stuff, like I was laughing earlier thinking about, you mentioned like Jackie Chan and other stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the Jean-Claude Van Damme, like those
Yeah.
are more legit than not. I think it's due to some of the directors. We can't blame all the actors for that stuff. The
Yeah.
one person that seems like an egomaniac motherfucker, whatever the hell, man. I've heard weird stories of this guy, but Steven Seagal,
Oh,
or
I was just about
Slappy
to bring him
Seagal,
up.
if you will. Like, have you seen the slow mo? He's like he's like slapping people sometimes. Like, is that real kung fu shit or what the hell, man? Like,
I've definitely seen some funny things. What do you think, Leslie? I mean, I've seen some funny reels. Have you ever heard of the McDojo it's like this thing on Instagram, but anyways, like it shows all these kung fu, quote unquote kung fu masters that are like barely touching. Now okay, we're talking about the esoteric stuff, right? There is
get him.
through like ways. Now I can't speak on me physically doing this, obviously, but from what I've learned and heard about through people that are better than me, that there are ways to affect people and energetically, through without touching them or even pressing pressure points. It's all part of our, like you see it in a lot of Chinese mythological like um, Chinese mythology that's displayed in movies where they will like do the fingers of death or touching people and then they get paralyzed and then they touch them again and then they become unparalyzed. I definitely believe in that because it's all part of the same thing that acupuncture, the nervous system, and how acupuncture works with that. But all there's definitely it's really silly to see a lot of the charlatans out there that all like get. I've seen demonstrations even in my own personal experience where the master will like have all their students in front of them on stage and will like do this. Like they're all like one guy's grabbing onto the wrist and every other person's like this behind the first guy. So they're all in a line and then the one guy does this and then they all like stagger back and they're like flying in the air like
Domino effect, yeah.
definitely a lot of that is exaggerated, but like there's that genuine like core element that is real that I don't think those guys know, but I do, yeah, think it's real, but not really things that people that really can do that. I don't think are again showboating and look at me, look at my powers,
Yeah, I think the public image and the weakness sometimes people have to wear an image, right? It gets in the way. And like Hollywood, either, the martial artists are like cutthroat, like kind of evil, or maybe they're like jesters almost, like seen as fools, but that have this kind of ability. And I don't think that for the most part, like Hollywood is really showing that honorable masculine so much in how they're portraying a martial artist. But
yeah, not anymore.
yeah,
Not, but like, yeah, and the esoteric stuff that we're just talking about, the more higher capabilities. I don't think, like, my teacher one time told me that the highest level of meditation is levitation, and like there are other students that have witnessed certain weird phenomenon happening with watching their teacher. But yeah, like a lot of that stuff has been lost. I feel like a lot of that ancient knowledge has been lost, of course, sadly. But it's also innate in our human, it's part of our human faculties. But
Awaken that dormant DNA, something like that, man.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's definitely people out there, but they're not out in the public like doing, like I said.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that some of the greatest masters are really kind of hidden. They're not putting out like a sign on a door front. They're not advertising.
They don't want all that.
Right, exactly. But they're sort of there, and you can find them by word of mouth.
Yeah, oftentimes.
And you're not automatically accepted as a student either. There's a certain level of commitment that is needed, and a character that you need to pass certain doors to show your character.
Yeah.
Like the movie Doctor Strange.
Oh yeah, Doctor Strange
from the Marvel, the first one especially.
Yeah, especially.
Did you see that one?
Yeah, I like that.
So you caught all the references of the
that was
Hermetica, esoteric stuff, and all that shit.
Yeah, that was it's amazing how much stuff they put into these movies, and it's not by coincidence, but it is. Yeah, it's like, wow, that's really cool that they put that in there, even if it's like a little bit exaggerated. But I have a friend, oh my gosh, like there's so many stories. Like I have a friend that just told me something really crazy to do with the military and stuff like that. I can't really talk about because it's kind of weird. But he told me like all that stuff that they show in the movies is real. X-Men, Men in Black, it's all real, but it's twisted. And I don't know whether or not I definitely believe in that stuff, but it's not like my focus. You know what I mean? But in terms of the martial arts, yeah, it's cool how they got like the Doctor Strange like manifesting in like 1,000 different images or something like that, or I don't know. It was always interesting to me about the ancient one too, like how she got her power from the dark source. I thought that was like a nice twist to it. And I was like, what's that all about? What do you think? What do you guys think?
Let's let you go first, but I just love the fact they said natural law a couple of times, and me, DJ kind of person with my projects, I snapped up some of them sound samples as I do with other conscious cats. But yeah,
that's so cool.
Yeah, I don't remember clearly enough like the movie. I will have to rewatch it, but I do think that again, it's like the darkness as a source of power is power. Mm-hmm. Are you going to learn to wield it and master it? The only way you can do that is to see it, experience it, learn about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what it means. Yeah, that's what I take away from it. Because you really can't if you're just ignoring, like, if you live in a one, like Tessarian likes to say, a one season world, you really can't just experience life that way, because it's not. There's many different seasons, but it's cool. So Derek, you are doing like music, is you're a music creator. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you,
I
brother.
wish I could introduce you to someone. One of my friends who's a rapper. He's
Send me some of his music, man. I'm always looking to implement some stuff. I've slowed down in progress doing stuff like this and getting a website up and all that, but
you're doing it on the side. That's awesome.
It'll be a work in progress, just like our lives, just like, aligning to natural law, which is a daily operation, which is why I like to call it just like the science of life that applies to everyone, every individual, and it applies to the smallest microscopic thing to the unseen realm, which is why we say things like esoteric and occult, because those are the unhidden things that we need to really consider if we're going to truly properly operate in this reality and all that stuff. So yeah, I know not Leslie knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yes. Freedom under natural law. She's in a cool group. I don't know if you saw their conferences and stuff, but
sounds very familiar. Please send it to me.
Yeah, we're going to do another conference probably in the late fall, early winter. Freedom under natural law conference. Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to tune into that. Now that I have like a personal connection with you guys more, so tune into that.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities to kind of get exposed to some pretty cool esoteric knowledge. The Seed Conference is another really good one. Brandon Martin does, so he'll be working on that as well. And we have the One Great Work Network with lots of content out there where you can delve into these topics, right, that are not out there in the mainstream. And I think that this topic of, martial arts and truly the proper wielding of masculine power is, masculine strength is really, really important topic for today's world.
Most definitely.
Really appreciate you here, Jungle, with your, very balanced energy, and humble presentation, to talk about this and represent the martial arts. Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much for having me on. And I'd love to one of the topics I'd love to dive into next time is like the whole dynamic between false humility and the opposite end of the spectrum. So, but we'll, that's like a side note thing. But thank you.
Feel free if you want to say something about it here.
I don't.
Yeah, or if you want to have us on your show or whatever.
No, I'd love to.
That'd
be awesome.
Break down those dynamics of the metaphysical.
Yes, please.
Unity.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
There's always more angles to talk about. So
yes. Thank you guys. So definitely hit me up, and I'll do the same. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your days, and everybody out there, I guess just stay working on yourself and tune into don't ignore your inner feelings. We're taught a lot to ignore that as men, and we're taught that that's weakness, but it's not weakness. It's actually strength, and being vulnerable to a point where with healthy boundaries is a strength. So oftentimes we can receive like external fear factors that try to dictate to us who we are and how we should react, but we got to really tune into our inner selves. So definitely encourage you guys to do that.
Like that divine feminine, that inner balance. Yeah, that's very powerful, and we always got to keep that in mind.
Exactly.
Embody that shit.
Yeah. Developing mastery of the force of emotion and force of adrenaline and energy really is about, the masculine power in the martial arts, directing that energy, right?
Yes.
By will.
Yeah, I mean, what is the most powerful element in nature is what? It's a feminine force, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Water.
Cosmic egg.
Yeah, there you go. So,
combined with that masculine fire, and that's like super powerful. And I think the martial artist really represents that mastery of both those powers united in a sense.
Yeah, we need to work together. That's for sure.
Yeah.
As men and women out there.
Yeah, I feel you on the water thing. That's super powerful and very underestimated in a lot of ways. And yeah, Seth talks about that a good amount. Yeah.
Oh wow, definitely.
Yeah, so before we give our final, au revoir for the people listening out, where can they find your information? As my guest likes to say, like,
oh, cool.
You know her, right?
Nah, I don't think I've been introduced, but you.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, we've had her on our show and good friend.
Yeah, definitely gotta.
It's all good. There's so many people, man. I know it's hard to.
No, man.
But as far as you, yeah.
Yes. So I guess the best way would be, let me find it. It's hjungle09 @gmail.com. You can hit me up there. I believe that. I just wanted to double check and make sure that's right. But also the YouTube channel is called Metaphyzikal Dynamix. It's spelled metaphysical with PHYZIKAL, and then dynamics is spelled with the X at the end. So, and yeah, it's specifically spelled that way because if you don't spell it the other way, then you're not going to find it on the search engine. But it's cool. Just if you want to connect on through email or that way, that's fine. And I'd love to have conversation and connection with authentic individuals that want to, share and grow and are able to be held accountable as well as have a reciprocal, connection. So, and hold me accountable as well.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thanks. Thank you so much, Jungle. Appreciate your vibe being here with us today, sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, brother. Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Derek. I hope to see you guys soon.
Yeah.
Stay in touch.
Yeah, we'll be in touch.
Definitely will do.
No. Take care, everyone out there. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
To master this game, you have to be very calm, but also quick of wit, sharp of eye, fast of mind, slow of tongue, quick to see.
Swords double-edged. I saw trouble ahead in this raw rumble, try not to fall and tumble from ledge. Humbly pledge not to self-destruct, who else to trust? Inner wealth can't be felt or touched. Swords double-edged. I saw trouble ahead in this raw rumble, try not to fall and tumble from ledge. Humbly pledge not to self-destruct, who else to trust? Inner wealth can't be felt or touched. Swords double-edged. I saw trouble ahead in this raw rumble, try not to fall and tumble from ledge. Humbly pledge not to self-destruct, who else to trust? Inner wealth can't be felt or touched. It's element of surprise, attempt to defy. I see through your deceptive disguise, you met your demise. Behold amazing grace, when pressures apply, I know you're saving faith.